Hello, my friends. It's Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast, and we're doing a special bonus week this week in Matthew chapter 2. This is, let me see, 1, 2, 3. This is the fourth one out of 5 right now. So if you haven't got the previous 3 from this week, you might want to, or it's the internet. You can do whatever you want. I'm not going to tell you what to do. What I will tell you is that we got Nehemiah starting on Monday. New year, new season. I've been working on that this week. I'm real excited about it. Jeff made new music. It's so good. We made a Nehemiah song. There's little sounds and stuff in it that are all Nehemiah-ish. It's going to be awesome. And also, my lovely family is busting their butts, packing up mailings for everybody who supports the program in any way, at any level, on any platform. We got the Nehemiah Field Notes book going out. Those probably start shipping tomorrow, but they're almost all packaged up and ready to go to the post office. And then you get your Esther Achievement Unlocked sticker in there as well with the gold outline. So they've just been doing a lot of 10-minute Bible hour stuff lately. It's been real fun. But for now, here's the fourth part of this special bonus week on Matthew. Enjoy.
He called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law. This is Matthew indicating that everybody in religious leadership was complicit in this decision. And he asked them where Christ was to be born. In Bethlehem in Judea, they replied. This is a reference to Micah 5:2. They quoted, "But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you will come a ruler who will be the shepherd of my people Israel." So everybody's clear on this. The religious leaders know it by heart. They didn't have to go and do a ton of research. They know this is where the Messiah is supposed to come from. And if anything, that just ups the tension level. So Herod cooks up a plan. Herod has already long since crossed over that moral threshold from, well, I wouldn't want anybody to get hurt, to, I'll starve my mom to death if it helps me stay on my throne. If we just got to kill some babies in order for Herod to remain king, what are a few babies? This is a very expensive thing to become king as it was. He's going to double down on his investment. He calls the Magi secretly, found out from them the exact time the star had appeared, which means now he knows how old the baby is, so he knows who to pursue. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and make a careful search for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so I too may go and worship him." And it seems like they must have bought it. Now, they wouldn't know any of the insanity of Herod. They traveled to a really wealthy, great kingdom, and the wealthy, great king invited them to his palace. Whoa, you'd be a little starstruck by that. What wonderful hospitality. And of course he'd be into the same thing. This is a great thing for everybody. Cool, we have a pal here in this Herod guy. And they go on their way. And I believe they were convinced, and Herod believed he had convinced them because he sends no escort, no spy, nobody to make sure that he knows where they're going. He's confident this whole thing is going to go to plan. After they heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they'd seen in the east went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. Again, doesn't sound like a supernova. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshiped him. That part of the passage really strikes me. Do we have any 2-year-olds in the room? Is there 1-year-olds? Yeah, I see a few month-old. I am so squishy for babies after having our own. I don't know. They seemed okay before, like a necessary aspect of humanity. Like we're going to need more of us later to do the work and keep the engines moving, the lights on. That's great. And then you actually get one of those for yourself, and you're like, mercy, I like these things, and they like me back. And you even you just forget that you're elbow deep in poop, and you just cost of doing business is fine. You forget the unbelievable amount of money that they cost to keep around, and you just like them. And yet, as much as I am ridiculously squishy babies and little kids, and everyone I see makes me think of my own, it has never occurred to me at any moment to fall flat on my face on the ground and worship them as I would a god. Ever. That's the most unnatural thing I could ever think of. What I think of when I see a kid, especially my own, or a little baby, is you have so much to learn. You got this mind that isn't all clouded up with all the dumb stuff that happens in the world yet. You're not broken down. You're not frustrated. You haven't utterly blown something yet, so you don't know that heartache, and you will, and you'll learn from it, and it's okay. But there's just this wonderful innocence, and I feel this impulse that I help. I want to make a little contribution. I want them to know, hey, you're welcome in the world, and we love you, and you got a whole bunch of grown-ups around here who will teach you and care about you, but not worship. And that's what they do. They must have known something. And in fact, I think that's part of what Matthew's driving at with the way he structures this whole passage. These guys arrived at this house to worship this 2-year-old based on the testimony of a star and some ancient literature written in another language from a different people group. They used astrology to figure out where Jesus was. You know what the Old Testament condemns? Astrology. Nowhere in here is Matthew saying, astrology is a good idea because look, it worked for those guys. No, his point is not astrology is cool now. His point is, look, if these guys who had no clue were completely wrong and arrived at this through incredibly dubious, compromised means, through a practice that was not looked fondly upon by the Jewish people, and they got it, and they knew that this was the king, the shepherd of Israel, the scepter, the star. This is the one who deserved true worship, and they traveled all the way across Asia on foot to do it. What on earth was the matter with the religious leadership? They live 6 miles from where the baby was born. They have the Bible. Their entire job and education is sit around and study a story that points exclusively to this moment. It's not like, well, they had other stuff to do and this was a weekend hobby. Their entire lives were about this thing. They were professional Messiah watchers. And they just whiffed completely. At this point, I think you all know and remember and have heard plenty of times that once again, we're not talking about baby Jesus at the manger when we talk about this scene. We're talking about the child Jesus, who we think of as being from Nazareth, so why is he still in Bethlehem at this point? There are all kinds of perfectly reasonable theories as to how this young family moved around. We're going to see that they end up in Egypt for a while in the next passage, and eventually they do land back in Nazareth, but it would make sense that there would be an extended time here, especially considering the circumstances of the birth. So they bring these gifts, gold, incense, myrrh. I could take a bunch of time and break those down, but let me just put it this way. One is gold. You've heard of it. One is frankincense. It has incense in the name, so you can do the math on that. And the other one is myrrh, and there's a Christian record label from the 1980s called that, so you can do the math on that one too. That actually isn't that helpful. Myrrh is the thing. It's from a sap, and it's used for preparing the dead, also for some more dubious perfume uses associated with other lines of work. And the bottom line is these were just 3 really, 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 really pricey things. Probably those really pricey things would have come in very handy in just a short period of time when Herod decides that he's going to kill all the babies and Mary and Joseph need to go to an expensive place on an expensive road trip as a young couple without a lot of money and without a job. So I'm assuming that those gifts probably paid for their flight to Egypt, making them very providential. You'll hear from time to time people trying to cram an analogy into this. The gold is like a king, and the frankincense is like for a deity, and I don't know, maybe. I'm just going to go with maybe and not stretch the analogy myself. Then, something that we're seeing a lot lately happens, and having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they return to their country by another route. Now, we've seen, for whatever reason, God communicate oftentimes around this birth narrative part of the story through dreams, and it happens here again. And it must have been very compelling because these sane, smart people choose to deny the orders of their likable host king, who's super rich and treated them super well, because, well, they're risking life and limb in a foreign country to break the law and ignore the decree of a king to go another way.